G'day legends, g'day superstars. Peps bringing you my tips for a massive round 2 of the 2025 AFL season. A massive round of AFL football, and it's all kicking off Thursday, March 20, 7:30 p.m. Carlton versus Hawthorn at the MCG. Everybody loves the G, the home of football. The Hawks can do no wrong so far in 2025. 2 on the trot, 2 really exciting wins up against a Carlton team that completely screwed the pooch against Richmond last week. Imagine being 41 points up, playing against a VFL team and losing. That's what Carlton did last week. I know it's another week, but guess what? The rampaging Hawks will be taking on Carlton, and I just can't see how they are going to kick a big enough score, and B, how are they going to stop the midfield? C, how are they going to be able to stop the defence of Barras, Battle, Sicily down there as well? It is going to be, I reckon, maybe close for a quarter, and then the blowout is going to happen. I know Charlie Curnow looks like he's coming back, but he's not the answer. He doesn't attack the packs hard enough. Move him up the ground a little bit. I don't see where their goals are going to come from because they got rid of Owies last year. I'm really concerned for Carlton. This could get a little bit ugly, not just for the Blues, not just for their supporters, but the people who think that Michael Voss is the answer to take them to the promised land. I'm taking the Hawks by probably 6 to 7 goals, and don't be surprised if it's a little bit more. Rightio, a massive game on Friday, March 21, 7:30 p.m. It's the Footscray Football Club for their 100th anniversary game against the Collingwood Magpies at the MCG. The Doggies, sort of impressive last week against North Melbourne, who, even though they had a number of players out, were able to get the win. I still think it's going to be very, very difficult for them this week against a Collingwood team that completely turned around the absolute farce that happened the week before. I can see them getting out to a massive, massive win, especially on the MCG. Houston just looks like he's like a pig in shit, I would say. He was loving the wide expanses of the G. Dacos will be there. The small forwards started to get some funk last week with Schultz, Hill, absolutely working perfectly. And resting Pendlebury, he'll want to come back, not as the sub this week, and get a full game into him. I can't see the Doggies kicking a big score. I can't see them stopping McStay, Membry, my check. It's going to be too hard, and I'm thinking it's going to be maybe close again for probably a quarter or two, and then Collingwood will blow this one out by probably 5 or 6 goals, and put a little bit of a dampener on Footscray's 100th year anniversary, but fantastic for the Doggies. They are an institution in our league, and I would love for them to get rid of the Western Bulldogs and just go back to Footscray, because that's what I grew up knowing them as, and that's who they should be. Rightio, let's move over to Super Saturday. 1:20 p.m. at the MCG again. Essendon versus Adelaide. How can you look at Essendon's game last week against Hawthorn? A lot of people are saying that they put up an admirable performance, and you can say outside of a quarter, it was pretty much true. The issue that I have, though, is that they're coming against an Adelaide team that fired on all cylinders last week when you got Fogarty absolutely dominating, you got Thilthorpe dominating, Rankin, Rochelle, all getting their hands on the ball. The fact that they rested Tex Walker in the back half of the game was just a showing that they have got this on a string. You've also got Alex Neil-Bullen, who's going to be back on the G for the first time since he left the Ds. He'll be wanting to get another win. And my issue with Essendon is, regardless of how well they went last week, they've lost their biggest goal kicker in Mr. Langford. He's injured, so who's going to kick their score? Because you know what? They got rid of Stringer, and I can't see Caddy or Kako kicking 10 between them to get them across the line. So I'm saying the Adelaide Crows are going to be way too strong. Essendon will probably get the ball in there quite a fair bit, but they just will not have the manpower to kick a big enough score. And I'm probably going by Adelaide, maybe 4-5 goals, and to, once again, put a little bit of a movement towards the top 4, which they should be aiming towards with the caliber of the team that they've got running around at the moment. All right, Saturday, March 22, St Kilda versus Geelong at Marvell Stadium, 7:35 p.m. Right, St Kilda, putrid last week. Can't say anything more about it. Absolutely got smashed by the Adelaide Crows. Geelong did the complete opposite, where they smashed Fremantle at their home ground, GMHBA Stadium. So where do you look at this? St Kilda back on their home deck, or Geelong on a wider more expansive running deck, hard deck that they would like to play on. I would be very, very worried if I was St Kilda right now. I just don't believe that they're good enough. I think that their manpower isn't as strong as a lot of people believe. And I think, once again, I've said it so far in all our review episodes and even the preview episodes, they are stuck in the friend zone. They're not going up. They're not going anywhere. Just nothing is happening. They're not getting from first base to second base. It's going to be another one of those years. I don't even think Ross Lyon is making a difference to this club. They can say that the standards have changed, but I'm not seeing anything on the field that is convincing me that they've become a better team since last year. Geelong, they will dominate this game. They will love the fast deck. Their small forwards, Myers, and Close will be running up, back and down. Bailey Smith back on the home deck at Marvel Stadium after being out for a year and a half. They will just absolutely soak it in, and they'll win this one by 10 goals, I reckon, if not more. That is just how worried I am about the Essendon Football Club. Even on their home deck, Geelong will be absolutely loving it, and once again, frustrating every other club in the AFL land by just keeping their spot in the top 4. We might as well just call it the top 3 plus Geelong, because that's what happens every single year. All right, let's flip over to Sunday. Brisbane versus West Coast at the Jabba the Hutt. Sunday, 1:10 p.m. Brisbane, they've won a flag and they've had a cracking They've had a cracking win last week against Sydney. Really pressed quite hard by the Swans, but they were just too good across the board, coming up against a West Coast team who would absolutely be dreading what they served last week against Gold Coast, having to make the big 4.5-5-hour trip over to the Brisbane side of the country to then play the Lions at the Jabba. This is going to be a hungy. Put your money on it. This will be a hungy. The Brisbane midfielders, the Brisbane forwards will just absolutely be creaming in their jeans looking at this one, and they will be looking for a massive percentage booster on top of the win that they got last week to really set themselves up for a massive top 4 finish. I've picked them to win the flag so far this year. These are the games because I think percentage is going to play a massive part in season 2025. They really need to nail this one. Put it into hungy, put more dampeners on West Coast, brand new coaches' first couple of games. I just think it's going to be too hard for West Coast. What will Harley Reid do? Will anybody from West Coast put up a bit of a fight? I can't see it happening. It's going to be just another dreary night for the Eagles. All right, Sunday, March 23, 3:20 p.m. It is the North Melbourne Football Club against my boys, the Melbourne Football Club at Marvel Stadium. North put up a pretty good fight up against the Western Bulldogs last week. I even tipped them to beat them, but it just goes to show that once you get that ball past pretty much the halfway line of the ground, their back line is nowhere to be seen, and you can cut them to pieces and kick a big score. Their midfielders ticking over with Sheasel and the group is on there. Larkey down forward. Darling's going to be helping. You've also got Parker. You've also got Caleb Daniel helping out there as well. But I just think the D's will be absolutely steaming from their loss last week against GWS. They had that game in the bag coming down to the last minute and a bit, and they will want to get the runs on the board. And I reckon I can see a bit of a statement game for them as well too. The extra run in their legs will be better suited for them. They'll be on the fast deck. That means Petrarca. It means Windsor. It means Lindsay. It means Sharp will be able to run up and down that Marvel Stadium all day. Don't be surprised if Van Rooyen, Jefferson, and even Fritsch, who's been out of favours for quite a number of weeks, one of them does kick a 3 or 4 handful over that game. So I'm picking the D's to win this one. I'm not saying it's going to be a massive 10-goal win. If it was, great. I'll probably see it maybe 6-7, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's a little bit closer early on as well. So North, I just want to see some improvement out here, and Melbourne, I just want you to get a damn good win. All right, this could be the game of the weekend. We talk about the graveyard shift. It is going to be an absolute corker. 6:10 p.m. at Optus Stadium, the Fremantle Shockers, the wankers with anchors from last week against the Shitney Swans, who haven't won a game. Could you imagine if the Swans last year's grand finalists start off this season, 2025, 0-3. I know it's mind-boggling at the moment. In my humble opinion, that is what's going to happen. They're going to go over to there. Fremantle will be locking this one in for a win. They're too good of a team to do what they did last week. We'll give them the mulligan. We'll give them a bit of a fresh run side of things. It's very hard to beat Geelong down there in HBA Stadium. But I do think on their home deck at Optus, they will be looking forward to this one. And I can see them bringing this one probably about 3 or 4 goals. Jackson will love the wideness of the ground. He'll be just going all day. He'll run Grundy off his feet. They've got a great back line. They've got a pretty good forward line. We know Tracy can get his hands on it, kick a bag. The thing that I'm looking for is for Fremantle to move the ball a little bit more attackingly. We know how good they are defensively, but I want to see them moving it a little bit more because I do think they've got the wingers and the half forwards to really cause some damage to the Swans. And from the Swans' perspective, you can't rely on Heaney. You can't rely on Goulden. Their forward line, McLean, Amadi, is just not working at the moment. McInerney, I know he's gone down there as well too. Or McCartan, sorry, has been going down forward. I don't think that's worked either. They will persist for it for a few more weeks, but I just think it's going to be way too hard to take on Fremantle on their home deck over there in WA. 4-goal win to Fremantle. I can't believe I forgot this game. The 4:15 p.m. game on Saturday, Port Adelaide versus Richmond at the Adelaide Oval. The pair versus the Tigers. The Tigers had an absolute belter. How could I forget Richmond? They're sitting in the 8 right now. Again, it's the Port Adelaide team that got absolutely pantsed by Dan Houston and also got pantsed on the MCG. Look, I don't think they're going to do it 2 weeks in a row. I think they're going to lick their wounds. They'll throw that game completely away and back on their home deck. Horn Francis will be loving it. Rosie will be loving it. Georgiades will be loving it. Willie Rioli will be loving it just a little bit more. And I can see them potentially taking this one out by only 2 goals because don't forget how good they were after halftime. Lawler, I was going to say Laylor. Lawler was, we saw how good he was. How good was Miller behind the ball as well too. Nankervis in the ruck. You'd almost say that Tim Taranto played his best game for the club. That's how good they went last week. And I reckon they'll have a bit of spirit in their back and they will think that they're a massive chance to take this one out against Port Adelaide over there in Port Adelaide. But I'm just thinking that it's just going to be a little bit too tough of a task. I reckon they'll give it a really good show. But like I said, I'm probably sipping a 2-goal win to Port Adelaide for this one. And that is going to then lead them potentially just to get that 1-1 ledger balance. But if Richmond can put up a massive show like they did last week, anything could happen. And I'm telling you now, this will be my game where don't be surprised if they take the win. And with the Gold Coast Suns and the GWS having a bye, that means they are your tips for the round 2 of the 2025 AFL season. Hey, 83% of people who tuned into my tips last week, which I got 6 of 9 of, aren't subscribers to the channel. So can I ask a massive favor and just hit the subscribe button down below because that means the more people who are on the channel means the more videos that we can make, the bigger guests that we can get on board, and more importantly, it's the more content that you can view because it's lace out and it's how you want your footy. I'll be back next week with my tips. Join J-Dog and I, 8 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time for the Lace Out live show because we are Lace Out, the #1 non-official AFL podcast this side of the West Cape Bridge. And once again, it's how you want your footy. Hopefully your team wins. Thanks for watching.